Well, Brent, thanks for being on the podcast this morning, man. Thanks for taking the time.
Yeah, you bet. It's great to be here.
So tell me what you've been up to recently. Latest I saw you, we were at SolarCon. I know that you're helping the team out there with SolarCon 4. This time it was in Las Vegas. How did that event go in your perception?
It was great. It was the first time they've ever done free tickets. It's the first time they've ever changed the location from Salt Lake to Vegas. And first time they brought in, I would say, a different caliber of speakers. So like more like investor angle from the sharks and stuff. It was kind of cool. Otherwise, it was there's a lot of firsts actually. First time they really encouraged these exclusive side stages for teams that wanted to like have space for their own teams. So Freedom or Free Forever and whoever else had theirs. I think Power did, and there's one other I want to say. And so there's things going on all around you, like events within the event.
Yeah.
So it seemed to work out pretty well. Like it went really well. The attendance was higher. They kind of shrunk down the floor, so there was more people per booth, if you will, and seemed to work out the ratio.
Yeah, I thought it was good turnout. There was more people that came than what I was expecting, and certainly more than had been there in years past. So I'm glad to see that it's growing, and it was encouraging just to kind of see where the industry is. You go into that, it's like, for me anyway, it's like the kind of turnout that you get at SolarCon is going to be fairly reflective on how the industry is going. So it seemed like there's a lot of excitement and there's a lot of hope, right? People are looking for the turn up from where we've kind of come from over the last couple years as solar's hobbled along. But I thought it was a great event, and having it in Vegas was always a fun thing for, after the event and be able to go eat and walk around and stuff like that. So I thought
it was closer to your offices, right?
Yeah. Little bit closer, but yeah. So Brent, today, what I want to talk about, right now, you've been working on a new CRM product. Your background and your skill set is somewhat similar to mine, I think, as far as both of us are kind of systems guys. We like organization. We like to be able to create operating procedures that allow businesses to run and to function. So today I want to talk about setting up systems within a business that allow that business to kind of scale. And so I wanted to start out and kind of get your thoughts on managing systems versus people. When salespeople, particular in the solar industry, most sales companies were originally founded by sales reps. Most sales reps, from my opinion, are more scatterbrained, ADD, big picture, chasing, dog chasing the tail kind. There's not a lot of people that know really what it takes to create a system that's going to work. And so I thought this would be a great value add to the industry, particularly to EPCs, along with other more sophisticated reps that are trying to build out their own sales dealerships and things like that. When we talk about managing systems and not people, can you kind of give me, what are your thoughts on, if we focus on managing people only, what are some of the downfalls, or what are some of the traps that we might step into if we're focused on, again, just managing people and not creating systems around it?
Yeah, I mean, if you've ever read the E-Myth by Michael Gerber, that's literally the answer to that. It's people. If you manage people versus systems, and now I think I'm understanding your question here. I'm not talking about becoming a good leader here. I'm talking about the processes of which one is the better process to focus on or mindset to have for yourself as a leader. Managing systems, the short answer is by far the most efficient, profitable, and best for everyone, including the people on your team. And definitely for you, and if you're making money from your company, is the hope. So that's definitely best. The longer answer is look at your local burger joint and look at McDonald's, and look at the difference. One manages people and tries to encourage them to make a good burger, and we have the best products and blah blah blah, and then they go out of business. I live in a small town. This is called Blountstown, Florida, North Panhandle. Burger joints have popped up 3 times since I've been here. Maybe 8,000 people that live here, and they all leave, and then McDonald's stays. Why is that? Is it because McDonald's has amazing advertising? Maybe. Does it have a good footprint? Yes. But why does everyone line up in their lines far more than the other burger joint that costs about the same. It's not even cheaper or more expensive, and it's a way better burger, way better. The local burger joint.
Sure.
So that's systems. McDonald's manages systems. They manage their line. They manage the experience. It's predictable. It's never different. The guy doesn't call in sick and the burger sucks that day. They don't forget to put, for the most part, they don't forget to give you things, right? And so that's the system. That would be the difference.
And I think as an entrepreneur and as a new business owner, you're trying to acquiesce to your people, right? You want to make them happy and excited about working there. You're trying to create a process around their strengths and around their weaknesses. But when you do that, though, it ends up hurting everybody, right? It can create a very chaotic atmosphere where there's confusion, there's favoritism, there's lack of trust, there's no rules. That leads to frustration. There's just a lot of unintended consequences that can come about, double standards, lack of organization, and you can't duplicate it. You can't grow it when everything is just decision made on the spot. It simply doesn't work. Whereas when we create a system, kind of what you were talking about, it changes that, that dynamic, right? When we have a system that we're managing, we're able to provide objectivity. We're able to provide certainty. We're able to give rules that allow people to be, like you said, to be predictable. You know what the process is going to be. And then we can actually measure things, see where we're failing, see where we're losing. And it's something that can be scaled. What would you add to that when we manage a system instead of a person? What's the advantage there?
I mean, ultimately the advantage is it finds, let me backstep it a little bit. When you have a new company, it's great to manage people at first. If you've read another book, Good to Great, talks about getting the right people on the bus and in the right seats. So at first you're trying to figure that out. You're like, okay, we got the right people, I think. Let's get them in the right seats. Once you get them in the right seats, create systems. Once you see their strengths, in other words. Now, because a lot of times when you're first creating a company, I don't know how it went for Fusion, but usually it's friends, family, coworkers, used to close together. Let's start a business. You used to install together. Let's start a business. Sometimes it's full on just business strategy from the beginning. That's very rare. So that, because of that nature of the beast, and I would say 9 times out of the 10 out of installers and dealers start this way. They just start because they were successful in it at making the burger. So they started a burger joint. And so, or installing the panels. So they started an installation company. Oh, I have my master's electrician license or whatever it's called. I'm not that. I should go do this. I heard I make money this way. Not a bad idea. It just doesn't mean you understand how to scale a business from start to finish. So that's how I look at it. There's this first stage. Usually it starts with finding the right people and then figuring out their strengths, put them in the right seats. Now create systems for those seats. That's how I look at it. So Perfect. Now it's like, so you can still be good to your people and make that experience awesome for them, but don't put them in the wrong seats. They complain, they whine. We all do. When I say they, that's me included. Like it's just a bad experience. And so you kind of kick against the pricks, if you will. Like it's not fun to be in that. And you feel like everyone's friction, and the real reason is you haven't put them in the right seat yet. And then I would go ahead and start creating systems, and then better yet, I would let them create the systems, not me.
So let's go even further upstream before we even get to the people. Step 1 to creating a solid system. If you could say, what is the first step? I'm starting a business and I'm starting a burger joint. What is the first thing I'm thinking as far as creating a system? What's step number 1 there?
Find out what people want, your customers, and give it to them. And then do it some kind of plus 1% better than your competition. Just a little bit better in a different angle, some kind of unique. That's marketing inside of that, but that would be what I would start with. So you'd be like, okay, so this place makes burgers this way, or does their system this way. We're going to tweak it and make the customer experience. We're going to give them what they want, but we're going to surprise them in this way, because we also know they like this. The market's moving this way a little bit. I want to meet them there. So you just have to have this plus 1% of innovation in there, and you do well.
Perfect. So if I'm hearing you, then it's kind of coming down to the why, right? What is it that we're trying to solve?
Yeah,
I've got a product that is going to solve somebody's problem. Their problem is they don't have the best burger available. I want to give them the best burger available. And then we can start working on the hows and the what's about it. But I think if we start out, it's like, what is the purpose of what we're doing? That's going to drive the process. Because a lot of times people want to just start with the how or the what. But Simon Sinek, right? I always start with why first, because that's going to really kind of determine where you're going to go. Because once we have the intended, if we have a why, we know what the intended outcome is. It's going to make our process, our design process, so much easier, because we're going to know, okay, how do we organize this? How do we duplicate this? What's the motivation around it? Are we creating accountability? Are we trying to create trust? Are we trying to create order? Are we trying to create transparency, analytics? Are we trying to make a new process simple? Are we trying to create culture? Are we trying to give a better product? Are we creating competition? Are we trying to increase margin? Are we trying to cut costs? Like, you have all the different reasons why you would create any sort of a standard operating procedure. Without the purpose behind it, though, again, we go back into chaos and we start just managing people from the beginning, and it just simply doesn't work.
When you start with the what, you can get really good at the what. The problem is now you're just managing the person to get the what right, and you forget where, and it can end up somewhere you didn't even want it to for the customer, like completely different. You just did a really shitty job or a really good job at delivering a shitty outcome for the customer, meaning your process they followed it, but like your people, but it was doing something you didn't intend. And so you have to start with the why behind your customer. And then the other part of why, just to add a small amount to it, but really makes a difference. We all have heard this, but the better way to put it in business is, if you want to be resilient and not quit, find that better why. Because you better have a bigger why, because you're going to hit the roadblocks, whether you do this the best way or not. You're going to hit cash flow that makes you want to give up entirely and not sleep that night or that week or year. And so you're going to have a reason why, and keep reminding yourself some way, somehow about that, and your team. So that's
that why is going to keep you motivated, is what you're saying.
Yeah. Yep. It's got to mean something to you. You have to put and if you don't know what it means yet, you have to put meaning to it. You have to find out. I'm not even saying fake it till you make it. I'm saying just sit down and write it down. It can be as corny and woo-woo as, I just want to help the world. Okay, well then what? And then dig in. And then the more you do that, what happens typically is an unintended thing. If you don't understand marketing and how marketing works, is really just manipulation at its finest. Persuasion. But like I'm being facetious, but like, I'm a marketer, so I understand there's a psychology of understanding how people think, why they think it, and when they'll take action. And everyone has the same type of triggers. And so you have to find out, align your why with the thing that triggers them to align with you. And so as you do that, you accidentally find the message that resonates with you, is what I'm getting at. You find your why and you start digging in, and you're like, wait a second, this is starting to align more with what they want. Then you dial in back to what I said, is find out what they want and give it to them. So
I love that. So we've got our why. That's going to help us as our baseline. The next thing we need to do is we need to identify what are our resources, right? What are we working with? What are the requirements as we start to map this out, which will be another step. What are some, when you kind of look at your assets, and when you kind of look at like the resources that you have to start something, what are you kind of looking for in that regard?
What do you mean? Like context starts something like what?
Yeah. So let's say that we're building a new process where we are trying to figure out a way to be more efficient in getting our solar design to submit to permit, right? We just got a site survey back. We need to get a design. We need to have it construction reviewed. We need to make sure that it's stamped and that it's electrically sound and that it's good to get over to the utility and to the permitting department. And let's say that we've got right now, it's taking us 30 days to make that happen, and there's just back and forth and it's wrong. So our why is we need to be able to get that time down.
Okay.
I'm trying to look for, what are my resources here? What am I looking for in order to improve that process or to create a new way of doing it? Does that make sense?
Yeah. I'd go about it by starting with the end in mind. More books. 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. That's one of the habits. Start with the end in mind. The end in mind in this case are outcomes. So what are your outcomes? Well, we need to reduce it to 21 days. cool. That gives us a target. It's an uncontrollable, but let's see if we can control it. For now, it's uncontrollable, right? Because it's out of our hands, truly. Like it's in a lot of cases, like it's the municipality, the utility, somebody else has to do it. You cannot force them to sign or come out at all, even if they promised, right? So you got to find what your outcomes are, then find your controllables, is how I look at it. Then I control the controllables. So that's where I'm not a big believer in like micromanaging, but I will micromanage the controllable factors, the actions, and make sure everyone's clear on them. After that, you just let people do it how they do it best. I don't like micromanaging the people to do it. So then I mean, what I'm saying back to what you're asking is, how do you know, I guess, how to start creating that system, or what actions or tools or resources you need. You start with the end in mind, and it starts revealing what you'll need. Because what's going to happen after that, naturally, when you're asking what's our outcome, 1, 2, 3, timeline, let's just say better communication. I've noticed we don't tell the customer what's happening, even though we got it done. They don't even know it's done. or they don't realize there's a delay, so they just feel disappointed, and they would have been happy if we would have let them know there was a delay. There's these things that you can figure out, and your outcomes. So we're going to make a better customer experience with better updates. We're going to shorten it by a week. What else? Or whatever the amount of days was, to 21 days. And so you start out those with outcomes. Then you identify why you're not doing it. Well, what's holding us back? And then you find pitfalls or gaps. And then you begin to fill the gaps. When you start to fill the gaps, it literally will tell you the tools you need to fill the gaps. I mean, if you have any experience at all in that arena. If you don't, then you're going to have to just study, look it up on ChatGPT. How would I fill this gap? What tools do I need? So like, it's pretty simple now to get the information you need. But what is not simple is figuring out, well, what's the outcome, and how do you reverse engineer back to tools and resources needed? Does that answer the question?
Yeah, no, that's great. That's great. So I'm hearing we want to be able to set clear timelines on when we want to accomplish what it is that we're doing, as well as the outcome itself, right? If there's a process and we're saying we want to have a certain timeline outcome that this is going to solve for, right?
Mm-hmm.
You also talked about making sure that we know who's going to be doing what, what people are going to be in charge of making this process happen, who's going to be accountable to make it happen. And then looking at those resources as well, what is our budget, to put in this? Do we need more software? Do we need to hire more people? Whatever that case is understanding those resources.
I mean, ultimately, the ultimate resource for me as a leader, if I'm in charge of this and it's multiple people, it doesn't have to be a lot. It could be 3 people that I'm helping manage and ensure that there's accountability and things are getting done. Then I need a dashboard. I would just to name a blatant tactical resource, right? Like, I need a dashboard, and we need to know what KPIs we're measuring. What are our key performance indicators? Like, what are they? What are we measuring? Is it time on permitting, or I forgot the one you said already. Was it permitting? What did you say?
Permitting and utilities. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So like and to get the permit, like, what's the problem? And cool, we need to shorten the time. Great. We know how we're going to do that now with this checklist. We know how we're going to do this. So we would measure how many days it takes, right? What's another one you would measure? How many days in between how many contacts were made to, I'm making this up because I'm not good at the utility side of things, but like, how many contacts were made before it happened to the utility or whomever we needed to contact. We always make sure we hit them 3 times or something. Again, I don't know what those things are, but as long as you have the KPIs, then it's very easy on the dashboard just to say, how did we do this week? I can see it says 3 plus took us 14 days. Awesome. On average, plus this and this. Any problems we had? No, not really. What could we do better this week? Well, I think we could probably increase our customer communication. All right, let's just work on that. Report back on Monday. Let's go. Like, it becomes quick. And if you've ever read The 1 Minute Manager, you can't have simple meetings like that as a manager if you don't have a dashboard with KPIs that are easy to report on. If it's always like, how do we do this week? And nobody has anything in front of them measuring, like, good luck having a meeting. Everyone's like scrambling on their phone or their laptop or their iPad looking for how they did when you ask the question. It's annoying. It's really annoying without swearing.
Yeah. Great input. So let's talk about kind of the next step. When I talk about mapping out a process, what does that mean to you?
Oh,
You
I mean, we
like
just did.
I'm talking
but
about flowcharts and spreadsheets and stuff, right? Trying
yeah,
to actually design what that looks like. What's your methodology as far as mapping out a complex process that you're trying to put together?
I use a tool called Whimsical. You can use any tool, even down to a whiteboard or a piece of paper. But for me, it's a skill. So this is not because I like thinking visually, although I think better visually. I've never met anyone that says I think better in Google Docs with outlines. They all say, I need a visual, like it'd be better if I saw something visual when you're trying to explain it to me, Brent. Great. So I start with a mind map. Whimsical is just a glorified tool to allow you to use this process that has a scientific approach to it and all kinds of data behind it using mind mapping. If you don't know what mind mapping is, it's very simple. Draw a bubble in the middle and draw little bubbles out from it, and then draw more sub bubbles out from it. And it just starts with a big idea or the idea that you're trying to map out. And then you say, well, what in order to meet this thing, let's say this is the outcome in the middle, how you start saying, well, this is one, this is another. And then some of those have subtopics. What I use Whimsical, I'm actually taking those, and then all of a sudden I'm like, wait, but this subtopic actually needs to be moved over to this one. And so I'm dragging them around and moving them. And then finally I'm like, that's it. That's my map. Then I say, awesome, mind mapped it out. It's a good outline of what I think we need to do to make this outcome happen. And then I take it and put it into a flow chart. Whimsical does flow charts too. And I just scroll over on the dashboard or on the canvas itself. And I change the tool over to a flow chart and I start charting it out, which is like flow charts. When you become a nerd, you realize flow charts consist of triggers, decisions, and actions. So that's most flow charts. Triggers, decisions, and actions. Trigger means what triggers this whole thing to start. Decisions mean, or let's say an action happens. Actions are like, okay, great. When it starts, what do we do? Or what does the customer do? Like, who's doing it? Oh, well, we send welcome email. Awesome. After welcome email, this is a decision, if they click and do this thing over here, take them down this path with more actions. If they don't, take them down this path, and you map that out. That's it. You don't go too far. It's not mapping out your whole business, just one outcome, because otherwise you'll be there for 7 weeks trying to map it out. No one will take any action, and then you'll just start over again, and then it churns through. And this is actually how people get stuck. They think they have to map it all out. Just map out one thing that will fill it's one domino. Like what can you knock over that would probably knock over other dominoes if you just figured that out. And then I map out so Whimsical, mind map, flow chart. And then we go back to what we talked about, Jared, is just start assigning people what are the KPIs to measure this thing, and we rock and roll.
Perfect. So let's do a little application then. Let's say that I'm a rep and I'm ready to start my own sales dealership, right? I'm selling satellite dishes door to door, and I've got, some buddies that I'm going to bring out for the summer, but I've got to come up with a process. How do I get these guys onboarded? How do I make sure that they sign all their documents? How do I make sure that they have whatever logins they need, that they get their uniforms, and that they've done some basic training so that they are ready to start selling? Like, I don't know what I'm really doing here. How would I go out and kind of describe what you just did and maybe give some of those specifics, if I were to try to use a flow chart, or maybe just writing it out on a whiteboard? Let's just give these listeners maybe a little bit of a practical application.
Yeah, I mean, so recruiting to onboarding, let's just call it. So not even getting their first sale, right? Because first of all, I would chunk these out. I'd say recruiting in itself is one thing. So I'm going to map that out first. And then when I have that done, I'm going to map out when they sign, what happens afterwards. That's onboarding. And your onboarding doesn't even mean necessarily training. You can kind of chunk, your 30-day path to success or roadmap to success in sales, or your 30-day path to 30 sales or 10 sales or 5 sales, whatever it is. I would call that after onboarding. I like to divide onboarding as this middle thing. So now I've defined that. I've defined recruiting, onboarding, and like path to success or roadmap or whatever you're going to call it. You give it a cute name. So from there, now I'm going to break that out. So and I think everybody in there, like if you're recruiting, you get this, like you understand you need to recruit, you understand you need to like onboard them somehow, whether you call it onboarding or not. And then you understand, hopefully, not everyone understands this. Don't assume they're go-getters. it's about 5% of sales reps that are actually good at sales are also like high achievers and self-starters and proactive. 95% are good at sales, but they're not like proactive. So if you don't give them a map, they will just become chaotic. Just note that now. And so it's very rare. And that's usually why you end up being the sales manager and recruiter, because you see the bigger picture and you're less chaotic. And as you go about recruiting, you become less and less chaotic because you're forced to. So like, hopefully, I mean, if you're doing a good job and you care, you're forcing yourself to figure this crap out. So now that you're in this position, you're trying to figure it out. It's time to map it out. I would start with recruiting. That means so I'd start with a mind map, recruiting. And I'd say, well, I always break it into threes, no more than threes. 1, 2, 3, many, your brain goes crazy. And then after threes, you take this one and it might have 3 branches off of that. And then I stop there. So middle concept recruiting. What are 3 major things we do to recruit or what's our recruiting process, I should say. And then I have 3 sub branches off of there, if that makes sense. Are we on the same page, do you think, verbally here without using a visual?
I think so. I'm trying to visualize it, right?
I'm
trying to
I mean, so you have the center bubble and you have 3 other bubbles. And now I'm going to outline the last 3, or under each one of those 3 bubbles, I'm going to answer more. So, but let's outline those first 3 in recruiting. 1, I would say you need attention. So how are you going to get people's attention? So you need to outline what is your attention engine. I call it, these are my 5 fortune engines I use across anything I do. It's an easy system for my brain to follow. And so you have the attention engine. What do you do? How do we get their attention? Who are we trying to get their attention? And you answer all those questions and you like, cool, this is what we're going to do. We're going to post in Facebook groups. 1, remember, I'm in the first bubble still of attention. And now I'm going to create 3 more bubbles under that one. So I'm like, cool, we need to go paste it, like recruit in Facebook groups. 2, we're going to run Indeed ads. And 3, we're going to just hit up our personal networks and send out 5 messages daily for the next 21 days. Let's just start with that. All of us, there's 3 of us on the team, let's say right now. Cool, we're going to follow that pattern. Now, after we get their attention, what needs to happen? Well, they need to apply. So let's create an application process. What is the application process? We need a landing page. So application process, second bubble, create a landing page. After that, make sure you have I would say a scheduling. How do you get them scheduled for the interview, assuming you went through and qualified them? And then from there, the scheduling is running the first interview. Actually, no, it might be something else. I would say the third bubble, by the way, is the interview process in recruiting. That's how I would look at it. So you've got get their attention. You've got running the interview, like the application to all the way up to running the interview. And then once you've qualified them, now you run the interview. And now you have a special process to run that interview. It might be a 2-step interview, a 3-step interview. You might do all these different things, but you outline that. Now you've got the 3 things you're going to do with some subcategories underneath that. So now you have this mind map. But what's cool is I can, like in Whimsical or any tool like that, you can just sit there and juggle it around like, nope, delete. No, let's change that one. And it's finally, you're like, this is it. And it might take you 30 minutes. We're not talking hours or days. It better just take you 30 minutes just to figure this out, especially with AI. So if I take my brain that somewhat knows what I'm talking about and then plug it into ChatGPT and say, this is my outcome, it will just enhance me tenfold. It'll give me 6 different ideas and I can just choose from them and know exactly which one, right? And so now I'm plugging those into my mind map. I'm good. And then now I have one mind map and then I'll process that full. Now I'll go into workflows and I don't want to outline that because that can go all kinds of directions. But you'll go into this workflow or flow chart and outline each one of those bubbles. But you see how they're just tying together. This was the process you outlined in the mind map. Over here is the actual flow chart of decision, so triggers, actions, and decisions. And that's it. You outline that. By the way, Jared, what's cool about this, most companies need like 7 to 8 of those to run their entire company, like a mind map with a flow chart, and then outline the flow chart. That becomes your system. And then now you just use software and tools and stuff to plug it into, to run those systems, and people to plug it into and measure and keep tweaking it. That's it. If you just stay there, you're good to go.
And there's so much power from getting this done, right? That when you have your room, I mean, I think about all the times that we've got, our ops team around the table. And it's like, okay, here's the objective, right? This is what we're trying to do. This is step 1. This is step 2. This is step 3. Everybody on board with that? Okay. Now let's figure out, number 1, we got to make some assignments. Who's going to be in charge of this? Who's going to be in charge of this? Who's going to be in charge of this? and then start making those decision trees. It's like, okay, once we get to here, how do we decide where it needs a pivot? Are we going here yet, or are we going here yet? Right? Going back to the example. All right, we've got somebody that's interviewed and now they're ready to be hired. Okay. So we need it to trigger something now. They've filled out their application. They've been checked as hired, accepted, or whatever. Now we need to get them documents. We need to get them paperwork.
Yeah.
Are we going to have this an automation thing, or are we going to have this a manual thing? Who's going to be in charge of that? Who's going to, program that to make it send out the documents? Once those are signed, how is it going to trigger us back again to know that it's signed, so that we can now send them their logins and create emails and be able to get them scheduled for orientation, right? But you just go through these processes and figure out all of the little things that need to happen, who's going to be in charge, and what decisions need to be made along the way to ensure that that process runs nice and smooth.
And Jared, if I could say this, when you're doing this, focus on the what, not the how. Don't worry about how it's going to get done yet. Just get the what recorded. What do we need to happen? And if your brain starts getting stuck, well, I don't know how that's going to happen. That seems impossible. Who's going to do that? And all this crap goes through your head. Don't, just calm down and stop being hormonal. And then just chill, stop asking questions, get it. What do you want to happen? If the perfect world was happening, I want an email plus a text. I want a welcome call. I want this. And if you have this person on your team or in your head telling you, I don't know, there's no way we can afford to do that. And this, just be nice to yourself and the person. I have a hard time with that. I'd be like, just shut up for a minute. I'm thinking, Yeah. And so but the point is the how doesn't matter yet. You can always cancel some of these things. Just get it mapped. And then you can say, because what usually happens is you find a way, and sometimes very cheap, or you find a partnership can do all of it for you. It doesn't have to be in-house either that you're doing it all. So the how matters a lot less. It's there's a book called Who, Not How, as well. So you can also find just the right who to get it all done. You can be a one-man show and just map it all out, be really good at thinking, and just be like, cool, I'm going to find the right who's, and they know how. I just know what I want. And that's how powerful this type of thinking in my mind brings. Also, one other note, your ability to communicate precisely and get an outcome that you're going after increases exponentially when you start thinking like this. Because now people are clear. They know what you want, you know what you want, and there's a precise thing. Again, you don't know how it's going to get done. You just know what is going to happen and what you're going to measure to make sure it does happen. And then from there, it's like people get it done and report back, and you increase it. Everyone likes working with a manager or leader that is precise in what they want and doesn't say, hey, we just need to get better customer service. Well, how do you want me to do that? I don't know. Just get it done, damn it, and walk off. Good luck, But there's actually a lot of people, they may not be that blunt and stupid, but they're close to that stupid.
Yep. Well, and that kind of goes back to the why again, right? Because, customer service, I want to get, whatever it is, I want to have 100 happy customer reviews this month is my target. How are we going to make that happen? Right. We've got to have a target for success so we can actually go back and measure the process that we've just come up with to see whether or not we are pacing to hit it, whether the process is making it happen or if it's not making it happen. But to follow up and to get feedback on that, what's kind of the process there do you see as far as determining whether or not our system is effective or not?
I would just say, just go back to your KPIs. You need to decide what you're going to measure and what's your controllables. So find out what's controllable, fully in your control. Maybe a subcategory is at least 80% in your control. and then write those things down. What things will you measure that tells you instantly if there's a success or a failure? And I say failure, I don't mean that harshly. I just mean failure for now. It might not fail forever. You're just measuring, is it working, right? And so a lot of people are afraid to report their KPIs because they look like a failure, and it has nothing to do with that. Now, if there's a pattern of continuous failure and it gets worse and never better, then it might be you, the person operating is in your control of these KPIs. But if you just come back and say, look, I thought it was going to work this way, I got 2 instead of 5, so I'm going to go for 3 this time and see if I can improve. That's it. That's all a leader and company needs. They don't need everything to be perfect. They just need you to figure out how to control the KPIs in your own way. So if you're the person that's being asked to follow these things, or you know, like you like the checklist, you're an operator, but you don't necessarily like to think about why and outcome. You just tell me what to do and I'll get that crap done fast. I'm good at that. Then just be happy that you have KPIs and report on them. Also, don't be afraid, for anyone listening, don't be afraid to say that's unrealistic. Because you're asking me to get 15 and we're at 2, Jared.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what, you want me to do that next week? Yeah, just do it, make it happen. Okay, cool. Can you meet me at 5? And then maybe by the end of 30 days, we can get to 15. All right, fine. So like, just be realistic. It's okay to like improve incrementally. But all of this kind of stuff happens on a weekly. I see in teams where they're just like, you have these weird expectations, unrealistic. Everyone's afraid to kind of just say, hey, why don't we just incrementally improve on these KPIs? Or people are afraid to even say, can I have a system to follow? Instead of whatever you just tried to outline verbally on this call today. So like, can you give me a process to follow? They're happy to follow it. So
yeah, most people, they love to be led. They love to follow rules. When you put somebody in just a room full of chaos and say, all right, do something, they're just like, I'm overwhelmed. I don't even know what to do with this. But if you have a clear path to follow, it's so much easier for them.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this. You know, when a business is trying to run or a team is trying to run, there's so many different resources available. Like I think about all the solicitations I get from different software companies for helping us with financing or tax planning or equipment procurement or lead generation or area management software tools, CRM. There's just so many different pieces that you can use to put together a business, and it can become fairly overwhelming and obviously very costly if you sign up for everything and trying to fit them all together. Especially it seems in the solar space, it's, there's not a lot of systems out there that contain a whole lot. It's you buy and subscribe to all these different platforms, and it can become overwhelming and create a lot of chaos of kind of navigating between all of those.
Mm-hmm.
My question with that is, how do you determine, I guess, what is imperative that you have, and how do you avoid overburdening yourself with too much software in effort to be efficient in your processes?
Start with a mind map. Seriously. And if this is new to you, try it. Start with a mind map, just like you would anything else, and say, what software do I think I need? Or processes do I think I need? And you might already have heard, if you're already thinking I need tools or software, you probably have seen some ads as why. You've looked into them. You're already using some. You like things about it and you don't like other things. So you're looking. So let's assume you're in that state of mind. We'll just write them all down. Just first, what's my outcome with the software? Well, I need to track leads. I want a marketing and sales process. Let's just call it that. Okay. So all the way from your attention to lead capture engine, to your follow-up engine, to your sales conversion engine, to your raving fan engine. Those are the 5 engines. If you get that, that's more or less your marketing and sales in a nutshell. Okay. You're going to need software to run that. You can call it a CRM. You can call it multiple CRMs and tools. It's whatever you're going to do. Don't worry about the tool yet, but you're going to need those things. You're going to need those outcomes. Then you're going to need fulfillment. Kind of like on recruiting. Now it's like you're onboarding, right? And then you need this. So you're onboarding customers. In solar, it's just not called onboarding in all companies. Most of them call it fulfillment or whatever, service delivery or something, right? But you're really onboarding the customer, creating this experience as part of the raving fan, but it's also part of fulfillment. And you want that to where all the processes for your proposals and contracts and agreements and permits and whatever else that need to be uploaded this customer profile, like what software is best for that for you? What do you like? What do you want? Do you want it all on one thing? You want it attached? Do you want links to it because you like using Google Docs for some reason? Like there's little answers. You have to know what you want. And like the problem with most of this, Jared, and this is why you got good at what you are good at with tools and systems, and same with me, is you don't know what you don't know at first. So you actually don't even know there's a tool that you would make it easier so you don't have to upload it to Google Drive if you didn't want Google Drive to manage your docs, right? Some of you know, but you like Google Drive better. Fine. So work that into your system. The point is you map it out. And now that'll start telling you how much software you're going to need. So like, or I shouldn't say how much software features you're going to need. And then from there, you find software that matches those features and you just reverse engineer backwards. That's not actually hard at all. It's pretty easy. Everyone's heard of Go High Level at this point. There's what's the one that you're very good at too, Jared? Sorry, I was HubSpot.
We use Podio and Go High Level.
Okay, Podio. There's HubSpot. There's HubSpot as well. It's what used to be called Infusionsoft. That's how I learned. 15 years on that. I was like one of their certified partners and stuff. And that became Keep, and they just got bought out. But they've fallen behind. There's probably a few others. But the point is most of those, you can get 90% of your features there. They're in one platform now. So that's the good news. The bad news is it's overwhelming to have everything in one platform, and it's overwhelming to have it all separated. It's more overwhelming to have it separated and connecting them, but still, it doesn't matter just because it's in one platform. So now you're like, what do we tackle first? We can't tackle it all. So it goes back to like that first domino. If we just knock down this process, so now it's almost like if you took time to map out where your gaps are in your company and what process or what outcomes you wanted. It was a lead problem. It was a sales conversion problem. It was a fulfillment problem. It was this problem. It was that problem. Start with that is what I would say. Start at the closest as you can to the beginning of all of this flow, this pipeline. Where is it clogged the most? That's holding up the rest of the pipelines for staying full, and start there. Solve that problem only. Pick your software that you can expand with, and then solve one problem with it. Don't make everyone switch to it immediately. Just solve the one problem with 2 or 3 people on your team, or just yourself. Then expand it and solve another problem. And by the time you have about 3 of your problems solved, get everybody else onboarded to the software. That's how I look at it, because it's hard to change your team over to things. It's really difficult.
Oh, it's like turning a whole ship around.
Yeah.
I mean, you try to change even a proposal tool. It's like for sales reps, they're very habitual creatures. And so trying to make them switch to a new software, it's like, no, this is overwhelming. And it's even worse on operations when you're so used to just doing the same mechanical thing over and over again. It can be overwhelming. I think one of the keys when we create our systems is, number one, is simplicity, right? Yeah. We want to keep this so that anybody stepping into this role would be able to step in and follow the process that's already there. If it's so complicated and they have to learn so much that it's overwhelming, our process is probably too complicated, and there's room to simplify that. And I've noticed as we've grown, as we've added more and more pieces and different softwares and stuff like that, sometimes it's, hey, we just need another tool here. We need another feature here. This is going to make things more efficient. But then we realize, gosh, you know what? This is actually probably complicating it more than it needs to. If we just go back to where we were and just tweak something upstream rather than fixing stuff downstream, that's actually going to solve the problem for us in the first place. So I guess my point in that is just, before you go and look at cool, new, sexy features that would be awesome graphically to look at, go back up and go back to your why again and what it is that you're trying to solve, and see if you already have the resources, which are going to be possibly more cost effective, and keep everybody else in line playing by the same rules, so that you don't get people caught in the weeds and get people frustrated and end up slowing your process rather than keeping it at its regular speed.
Yeah, let me point out the invisible elephant in the room. What's the invisible element? I mean, it's the non-obvious one. There's the pink elephant in the room, the obvious one that we should all talk about. And there's the invisible elephant in the room. It's a huge problem, but you don't see it. The invisible elephant in the room, when you're doing this kind of stuff and you're hearing feedback as a leader or company owner or sales manager from reps, from back office team, is they will start saying the word or phrase, something like this: no, this is happening all the time. I'm losing sales because the proposal tool sucks. I'm losing this because of this. And if you don't point out the invisible elephant, which is this, measure the damn thing. Don't believe them. Not that you don't trust them. Just don't believe their over-exaggerated fish that they caught this big. That's what's happening. When you ask them, they'll be like, well, I mean, it's happened 2 times in the last 3 months. I'm like, and you want me to fix what because of that? Like, you want me to go over that? Really? I wouldn't say it that way, but good suggestion. We'll note it here. And if it keeps happening, fine. But like, and it's good to kind of help them self-correct as well. That's part of leadership. Like, look, hey, when this starts happening more, just understand how much it costs to get the team on board with this. If it's just happening twice, deal with it. Is that okay to ask of you? I mean, if you're frustrated, keep coming to me. Don't think I'm pushing you away. You got to talk to them like you would your own. Like I have 2 teenage boys. I'm not going to say, don't ever bring that up. You know, like they're never going to approach me again when they have that problem. They're just going to keep it in or lash out somewhere else. So like you still become approachable, but you just let them know, look, let's measure a little better than that.
Yeah.
And if it keeps repeating, so the invisible elevator, you know what I'm talking about? That happens so much that you think that there's a problem in the pipeline stuck here, and that is just a bump. The water's flowing just fine past it. It's just a little cholesterol buildup in that line.
Yep.
It's not like
well, and a lot of times somebody will come they're emotional because they're having a hard day, and they've had a problem that's occurred once or twice in the last, like you said, maybe over a month, and it just feels overwhelming. And they come and they're like, we need to fix this and this and this. A lot of times what I like, it's hey, I appreciate that feedback. Will you do me a favor? Track this over the next 2 weeks. Let me know every time that it comes up and just give me the notes on it so that we can start working on this for you.
Yeah.
And then follow up with them in 2 weeks. Hey, how many times does this happen? What are you noticing? And a lot of times there's like, you know what? It must've just been a glitch because I haven't even seen it since then. Okay. So should we let it be for now? Yeah, I think we're probably good. I was just, whatever it is. So we do need to look at that, because we can be a dog chasing a squirrel at every little thing that comes up with these, when a process, because no process is perfect. There's always going to be variables, and there's always going to be, challenges. But if we chase everything in that process,
I once had a COO in a marketing agency that I had in 2014 to 2018. And so we had this marketing agency, this gal, Angie, who's such a good person. I would rehire. One big problem. She had checklists for checklists for checklists. Like, it was just like I have a checklist, but I have a checklist to follow to get this checklist done. And then I have a sub checklist to get that done. It was just so much that she overwhelmed herself with a simple thing that needed to happen. You know what I mean? So like she would break it down into these tiny things. And so once she started, I watched her as we worked together on like simplifying that. I'd be like, okay, can you just let's just talk in outcomes for now on and not to-dos. Let's just talk in an outcome, not to do. And the more she was thinking the outcomes just to get it done, this way by this date. Cool. Let's start there. Don't make a checklist on everything that needs to happen before it's done. Just make it simple. You get 3 things. And then once we started doing that, it simplified. What I'm getting at is that problem happens inside your organization all the time. You don't know it's happening. There's these checklists that they're coming up with because you ask them to get something done, and they don't feel like it's done until everything's checked off. So that's powerful once you understand that, and then you just keep it simple. Anyways, she became amazing as she went on. And frankly, just to be real, she already was really good at what she's doing. It's just there was a couple things where I was like, this takes too long, and I don't know why, because she's good at everything else. And then I started seeing what she was doing. I was like, and frankly, it was also, and I do the same thing when I'm not confident in something. I feel like I have to have every little piece of information instead of just take action. Yeah. So, yeah.
Good feedback. Well, Brent, tell me about CRM Max. This is a big new software that you've been working on for the last, I don't know how long now, but
three and a half years. Yeah.
3.5 years. That's awesome. Yep. Give me kind of a summary of what you've built.
CRM Max is, I don't even start it this way unless I'm in the solar industry, because we build it for other industries as well. But CRM Max is a white label of Go High Level. So that's first and foremost, understand that. But on top of that, we've built it. How we built it and why we built it was actually, I had my own dealership in San Diego with my younger brother, and we were using Infusionsoft at the time. And we switched over to Go High Level because Taylor Armstrong, if you know who he is, the Solarpreneur podcast guy, he was one of our managers and the sales managers in San Diego. And he's like, hey, have you seen this new Go High Level thing? I was like, cool. And I frankly was just over new software because I've used so many. And I kind of just glanced at it. And I thought, okay, wow, okay, this is actually pretty cool. Wow. And months go by and I'm like, this is actually looks better. It looks too good to be true, right? And so the point is eventually we switched over to it and we put all of our systems into place there. So we took all of our engines, we built all of our marketing and sales systems for virtual sales, for whether we're getting virtual leads or leads that we're going to close virtually, or maybe in home, but it was all online leads or wherever the lead source was, versus door-to-door leads, which we had a door-to-door team as well. We'd have on average like 25 to 30 people on the doors in San Diego County. So picture all that, and then we're systemizing it and using what we just talked about. That was my brain from the beginning, because I was 39 at that point. So I was already old. So it's not, I'm new to solar, relatively speaking. 2019 was when I first heard of it. By the time I was 40, that's when we had our first year in business. And then we sold it when I was 42 or 41 and a half. So like it was 18 months of building systems inside of High Level. And then we sold the company. And then I was like, what should I, and it just came full circle. I just started building out, instead of using, I had a marketing agency before where we'd build all this out inside of Infusionsoft with these same type of systems. It wasn't for solar, but it was for home services and coaches and consultants and speakers, authors, trainers, those kind of things where they're doing high ticket sales in a different industry. That's what we had an agency for. So picture I was doing that, and then I went into solar, and I actually just came full circle, except my whole focus was to build out what's now known as CRM Max and give that to solar teams. So we started with the same system we used for our dealership in solar, and most of it relied on follow-up and marketing automation for follow-up. So I wrote a book called Follow-Up Fortunes to kind of teach people the concept before they would believe me that you can systemize this thing and make it just hum. And so then I released CRM Max. That was 2022, the very beginning, February 2022 or January. And that's when we just started building it from there. And so since then, we've just integrated several different ways to use CRM Max. But if you want to put it this way, if you're a Go High Level person or you've heard of it, it's Go High Level. It's as if Go High Level built something that was specifically for solar out of the box, but not just that, all the support is for solar, everything, the ecosystem is for building your solar company. And so it's just like a subsystem of.
And Brent, is it more sales based, or is it more EPC based, or does it do both?
It's sales and marketing first, but now it's called, this is super nerdy words, is called custom objects. Now that they finally got that advanced, we have our first 4 installers using it to manage all their installs. Mind
Cool.
you, they're not a $50 million company or plus, and they're a couple $1 million company, you know. And so you guys might break it. So who knows, it might be just fine for you. But the point is it's getting there for fulfillment on a large scale. Small scale, easy. It'll handle fulfillment, EPC stuff. Yeah.
Nice. Well, that's exciting. I hope that continues to grow for you. Let me ask you one more question, and I'll let you go. Being a systems guy and kind of creating and visualizing, mind mapping and flow charting, all that kind of stuff, how does that affect you in your regular life, in the way that you make decisions or the way that you kind of map out your personal life outside of business?
Yeah, my wife makes fun of me. That's first. I get bullied by my wife. No, she actually, how it affects me overall, relationships, if you were named the big ones in categories in life, relationship, or like family. What I think you can also do the F's, right? Family, finances, fitness, and faith. Is that right? Family, 4.
That's right.
4
Yeah.
So it affects all of those areas tremendously, because all it is a way of thinking and drilling down how you see things. Even faith, it drills down without getting woo-woo or spiritual at all. Like, okay, what do I believe? I believe this and this. I don't know what I believe. Let's just start there. Like, okay, what should I go study so I know what I believe? There's just, you just start, and you start to become process. Ultimately, the result is this in any of those areas. You're faster, it's easier, and it's so much less stressful. You're at peace. So every night I sit on my back porch. Every morning I sit on my back porch. I look at 20 acres of country. And by the way, I'm not bragging about this. Is like a less than $400,000 property. It's not like I'm saying I have this big home it's a nice area in Florida that I enjoy, is what I'm getting at. And I look at every morning, I start like that, and I write down 4 things that I'm focusing on over and over, like a kid on a chalkboard. And I focus like that. That's kind of my way of saying I'm focused on this. And then you can bet that I have a mind map on how I'm going to hit those over the next 12 weeks. I usually do things in 12-week sprints. I like the book 12-week year. It's a really good concept. You shorten your horizon to hit your goals. Don't make them 1-year goals. Like make them 12-month or 12-week goals, and you'll hit them fast. So the point is everything I do, I write it down in the morning, and in the evening I smoke a cigar and reflect on how I did the day, and I go to bed. Like that's literally it. And the amount of peace I've had since doing that, since we've been here for the last, going on 4 years, 3.5 years, has been tremendous. My health's gotten better. It took me a minute because I was a fat butt. And so and still have weight to lose. But the point is everything's naturally getting better because I think this way. It takes a will. You got to want to. So I'm not saying if you just start mind mapping, suddenly your life's going to change. But if you start thinking more simple and I call it a brain dump, like be okay to brain dump things onto paper or a whiteboard and use a mind map because it allows your brain to work fast. That's why you use it. Don't outline it because your brain will want to organize it. Just bubbles. You're just like up this, up that, up this. Oh, I'm thinking about this. And it's like you have permission to have ADHD really fast, or ADD, whatever one you want to diagnose yourself with. But that's it. That's why, and what that does is allow me to then become focused instead of chaotic. And so that you can bet my marriage has gotten better, fatherhood's gotten better, and faith has gotten better, body's gotten better, business has definitely gotten better. Like all those things get better if you think more succinct, simple, and communicate better. Yeah.
I love it. Last night, my 8-year-old was putting together a Lego set. He's a Lego master. That kid, ever since he's been 4, he'll put together these Lego sets that are rated for 12-year-olds or whatever. He'll come in and be like, "Dad, look what I made." And he's done it in 2 hours. I'm like, "How in the world are you doing that? You don't even know how to read." And he's like, "I just follow the pictures." And he just goes through and he just goes through the map and he just does one after another. But it's I laugh at it because it's life can be that simple. If we just create our map, if we just create our steps and our plans and just follow that, we end up with that very complicated Lego structure that when you look at the big spattering of all these Legos on the table, you're like, there's no way this is coming together into anything, right? But eventually you follow those steps and it's just, you make this really, really cool toy. So I think there's a simile to life with that, but I appreciate all your feedback. You've given a lot of stuff for me to consider and hopefully our listeners to think about in structuring life, right? Structuring business, in thinking about those processes and the whys behind it, who's going to execute, timelines, and what it requires us to be able to be more effective in executing and accomplishing our goals ultimately. So yeah, Brent, appreciate your time today, man.
Yeah, you bet. It's great to be here. Appreciate you having me.
Cool. Well, hey, have a great weekend. For all of you listeners, thank you for being with us. If you find value in this, please share it with others, like and subscribe. Help us pass this value on to other people. We appreciate you guys. Have an awesome day. Go get it out there.